But his older brother, it's funny, you and Dale and my cousin on the other side, Tom, all were 19. Yeah, so Mom got it. Comes from Rachel family. I haven't extended yours out. I just went as far as Amber. Still doing it. Still doing it.
Then you'll feel the hand on the back of your neck.
Make sure everyone remembers me.
Nice, Jimmy. I waited for him, but he didn't show up. It's all right. It's all right. I always talk to him.
See what we said? He will work with the crowd. Just fair warning.
He's almost as bad as you.
Not as sassy as you guys. Who else will work a crowd? Jake. Mike's Jake.
He's there, huh? Halloween wasn't a problem?
No, I just want to make sure that when we get to this,
At 8?
Oh, and
At 6, at
2
5.
and 4. And Aislinn is the little Nicholas. She's just too old. Wait. She has mind of her own. I can't even describe. She has bad genetics for that, on both sides for that. Strong chin.
So, didn't the pass at home?
Well, because it was watching her, she's still not there where she goes, because I had thought, okay, we're down. In my mind, I was doing it was late. She called me really late. She had stuff to do. Well, we're fine, you know, we got to keep it. And I have we had medical staff, you know.
Can't recognize anybody.
That's it. We were worried about getting them to the college kids. And
Did you figure out their season?
yeah. And he walks in yesterday and it was amazing. Oh, you're a day early. You know, this was like I totally, but I mean when you're 24/7, it all blurs together.
I saw that.
This weekend?
I have not tried her on
Yeah,
there.
I'm kind of grateful that doesn't happen because the kids, you know,
Keep forgetting to get
she'd say, well, she doesn't is it
But of course, she didn't answer her phone.
Sometimes it would be
Mother
like
was at work, so I had to call Ryan to get hold of her.
in the morning.
Ryan said, this kid, he literally was like, hi Charlie.
I know, I've learned about
I think, yeah, what? I said, well, no one else will answer their phone, so I really hate to call you.
Nice to meet you. And then I got as far as Seattle and there was a plane. So I stayed in Seattle and I flew out on the red eye to Detroit. And so then from Detroit. It's Lance. Me too.
Get there, Kelly's over there. Okay. But Kelsey Kelsey doesn't dance with her phone. Unless she has
Fell on the bed. Thinking,
yeah, we would all celebrate and
and I woke up and I walked out the kitchen. The clock is there. It is very It's so good.
I think Rob.
Is it evening or is it tomorrow? Because I have no idea.
We have everybody that you can tell. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask for your attention for just a moment, we're going to get started fairly shortly. So if I could have the pallbearers please come to the back of the funeral coach with me, I would appreciate that. Everybody else, you're welcome to gather under the tent if you want, stand in the sun, sit in a chair.
If you're willing. You just got to let it.
Don't.
I love that.
Good. Not in your way, am I?
You gonna be out of your way, Brandon? You alright?
You're fine, yeah.
They don't.
Oh, I was looking at that. I was looking at that last year. Didn't that sound good?
No, Auntie's coming. Get out of her way.
Okay?
I didn't realize.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports underneath the
No, she's cold. Okay. She likes the water, but she takes a swim.
Thank you so much. You're welcome to join your families at this time if you choose. Everybody gather in for me. I know the sun is gorgeous, but still.
Oh, we don't need to be.
Yeah, I think it'd be
You don't want,
get under the tent. We're getting under the tent, but we're not.
you should be front and center.
Yeah, you
You and Marilyn and Carolyn
should be in front,
Yes,
whether you like it or not.
whether you like it or not.
I get to be by the Kleenex box.
Yeah, every other Kleenex box but Kleenex box.
Okay, is everybody in there? Or I'll hand it to you.
All right, I'm going to sneak right in here, kind of in your way. Sorry about that. Just so everybody knows, we're recording everything today so that we can make sure we have it for a longevity. It's going to go up on a special tribute page. It's been created for Auntie Emily. And so you guys can view it at a later time as well. We're also Zooming because we've got some people that are a little bit further away but wanted to participate too. I have a microphone. Please use it if you could. I'd like to welcome everybody. And who would like to go first?
I
We
was
can't
supposed to
keep
do
doing
an
this.
introduction.
Oh, she's doing okay.
You are.
Yeah, I was here to say, yeah. Is there a point you can stop?
I have a poem here that my son Matt wrote and sent to me this morning. And I had told him ahead of time that if he did write something, I would promise him to read it. And usually I don't make promises, so I gotta follow through. We do not cry, not for you, only us, for the times we spent, for the memories we made, for days we must spend apart, the same tears you once shed for the ones that left before you. But now you too have learned to fly, to leave the burdens of the world below and stretch your wings for ivory perches. There you will sway with those before you, so this is no time for wet faces or wet noses, because every life is like the seasons, every winter has a spring, and every bird always flies home. And Nancy found this morning, hanging on the refrigerator, this little visual effect, which is a little bird that Matt had cut out and made into an ornament with his name on the back, and it's dated 1994. And afterward, if you're interested, because this is how he sent it to me, shaped like a bird.
Who'd like to be next?
Oh, you want me to finish up? Okay, yeah. Okay, well, my other things I wanted to add to it is that thank you, Auntie, for teaching me how to float on my back. Awesome. I'm really awesome at it, and I thank you for that. I also want to thank you for taking me fishing, and we would eat fish together for breakfast, which grossed Nancy out to no end. I want to thank you for playing with my boys and being the best playmate ever with them, playing Bugsy and Coyote with Matt. And I don't know many people that would sit for hours with a magnifying glass and look at old coins with Clayton like you would, and playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards with him. So thank you for being not only a wonderful aunt, but an awesome, great aunt also. Thank you. Nancy?
Well, Auntie, here we are again. We've pretty much been roommates for the last several months. So, as roommates, we did a pretty good job, I think. Auntie was always there growing up. When my dad worked out of town, she would come and stay with my mom because Auntie worked afternoons as a nurse. And so she would come home, and then Mom didn't have to be home alone with myself, and then eventually with Marilyn. But probably more, it was easier to have a break for me than Marilyn, because Marilyn was always more compliant. Auntie and I did not go fishing, nor did I eat fish for breakfast. Though I did learn over the last few weeks how to open canned salmon and not retch. Which is not easy. So I did learn that. She taught me how to sew. She taught me how to knit. She taught me how to crochet. And she taught me it was okay if you didn't want to comply. It was okay to be different. It was okay to choose a different way. It was okay to raise children who also didn't necessarily want to comply. Those who comply are easier to raise, but I think those who might not comply make a bigger difference in the world. And they just march to a different drummer. We all march to a different drummer, and it's okay to march to a different drummer. You know, Auntie was a teenager of World War II, and, you know, remembers the Depression, and her generation is disappearing fast. And I hope the lessons that we've learned from them that we take with us, and we can go forward and make a difference. That things will be better because of the things they taught us and the things that we've learned. I know that one thing that came very in handy during the pandemic was the fact she had taught me how to sew. And she had taught me how to scrounge around and find things, and that it didn't always have to match. But I sewed a lot of masks, and when we were short on elastic was a big thing. If anybody during the pandemic ever tried to buy elastic, it was a big thing. Yeah, and so at one point, there was none to be delivered, there was none in the general Lansing area, there was none you could get online. And it hit me that I had her 1946 sewing machine that had been my mother's after Auntie graduated from high school. She got that for high school graduation. She had then bought a fancier one, and it came down to my mom. And she taught me how to sew my own clothes on that sewing machine. I then sewed my own clothes. I sewed prom dresses. I sewed my wedding dresses. And the last thing before masks that I sewed on that was the packet for my mother's ashes. But I thought, there was things in that drawer. And Don went up and looked, and you will never imagine what was in the drawer of the sewing machine. But packages of elastic, which I was sure would not stretch because they were marked at 39 cents a package. And there was also buttons in there when they needed the buttons for the headbands to protect the ears of the paramedics and the nurses. So she was helping even though she didn't know she was helping. She had given me a skill. She had given me supplies. And when I was lucky enough to be given a gift for my service from the Potters in Lansing, it was a cardinal on a plaque, which probably came to her, because really if it wasn't for her we wouldn't know. So Andy, we thank you for all the things you've taught me, and I hope I've done good with them. And thank you for letting me borrow your name and use it with my daughter, and for all the things that you have done for all of those. And several of us nurses and nieces and nephews she was also there when we were born. So really, she has known us our whole lives, and hopefully made us better persons. But thank you.
See everybody here for her. Emily was my aunt, but she was also my friend. And as Nancy said, I think she was probably there for most of our births, any birth that she could possibly be at, because she was an OB nurse and loved babies. I wore my Munson jacket in her honor today because we were both long-time Munson employees. I just hit 40 years, and I know she worked there all of 40 years plus before she retired. So. Emily was always, she was kind of a backup parent, I think, for all of us. She floated and she went where she was needed, sort of like her namesake Emily, I learned. I got to know her a little bit better here at Emily's end of care. That's been a good bonding. Examples are, when my mom, when I was born, my mom got really sick like a day or two after with this infection. She came out after her afternoon shift working at Munson and took care of me when my mom couldn't. And when I was 8, there was difficulty getting a farm loan. We had no money, and she loaned us money to eat because we absolutely had no money to eat on. So there's many things to thank her for, and I think that the times like that are so numerous for all of us. If somebody was sick, she came. And then we took a trip together to Vermont, her and I, a 2-week vacation, and I won't tell the funny bear story where I was terrified in the tent and she slept through the whole thing. But and then I got to know her a lot, better again, as this last 5 years or so. I know that she and Ines had a check-in call every night. And then, after Ines died, I kind of felt it out for a little bit, and I finally said, do you want me to check in on you? I said, I'm kind of worried that nobody, yeah, why don't you do that? So for almost the last, 4 or 5 years or so, we've had an every night conversation, and so, we've really grown close together again. She was supportive for me through when my mom had Alzheimer's, and I'm caregiving for her
all my brother's stuff, and she was, supportive through all that emotionally, so I could keep going through it. So I thank her for that very much. And then, the end, and came and helped. I was honored to help take care of her the way she's helped us all of our years, and I think we did good by her. So thank you, Emily.
Who would like to go next?
This is not my forte, so forgive me if I stumble a little bit, because I probably will. My very first memory of Aunt Emily is taking a walk in the woods, which eventually became her woods after Grandpa died. Pointing out the flowers, plucking a leaf off of a plant, and told me, "Here, taste this." And it tasted just like licorice. I thought she was magical. And she was in a lot of ways. I could stand here and tell you story after story about her. The one that I tell the next generation a lot is the chicken story. As we all did, I tagged along after her a lot because she was fun. And she was going to the chicken coop to get eggs, I guess, and I followed. And I managed somehow to step over that huge threshold into the chicken area, and they attacked me. Thank God Emily was there, because I grabbed onto her leg and I refused to let go, because those chickens were going to kill me if I didn't. And she was standing there, she was chuckling, and she was telling me it was okay, I could let go, which of course I never did. And I don't know how she did it, because she was not a big woman, but she managed to get that leg up and over that threshold with this 4-year-old child hanging on. And saved my life that day. But yeah, and as we got older, you're right, she was there for everybody. I remember when we moved down to Muskegon, Dad had been out of work for a year. And it was tough. It was tough financially. It was tough mentally. I've read some of the letters that she sent to my mother. And boy, I never realized how much she helped her just to cope with that tough time. And she did give a few loans to help him through. And in later years, I'm just so thankful. 2019, 18, 17, I was finally able to come up at least once a month, and man, we used to go on little excursions. Nothing fancy, just hop in the car, go somewhere, explore, telling me stories. And oddly enough, the last time I was here in 2019, or maybe the time before, I was getting ready to leave, and she says, "Do you want to go for a walk in the woods before you go home?" And I said, "Sure." For half an hour or so, and we did the road. Well, 2 hours later, we were coming out of the woods. But, it was a fantastic time, because once again, she was trying to show me the perimeters and telling me stories, and just brought back a lot of memories of childhood. So, there's just no words to really describe. Great aunt, great aunt. I mean, there's just no words. She was just wonderful. And I think we're all blessed to have her in our lives.
Anybody else would like a moment to say something?
My name is Cindy, and I'm Emily's neighbor. And the very first time that I remember about Emily is when she took me snowshoeing. And I remember she led the way the whole time, and I know she was in her 80s by then. And
and by the time I got home, huffing and puffing, I was soaking wet, and my husband looked up at me and goes, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, I was just snowshoeing with Emily." And he goes, "Honey, she's 30 years older than you." And I would have laughed, but I couldn't breathe yet. Oh my God. But we would always, and that started my love of snowshoeing with her. And the dogs would follow all along, and my love of birds and nature, and we became CSI investigators too with dead animals. Every dead animal she found, she'd call me up at home, and I'd go over and she'd put it on top of her garbage can, and we would try and find out how it died and everything. And she found a milk snake out in the woods too, and called me, and so I grabbed my camera and I went out there, and she told me exactly where it was. So I found it and took pictures of it, and
I found this picture. I was like, why are you snake pictures?
And that was my friendship and my great love for that lady. I loved her so much. And she became a great friend and kind of a mother to me too, so she'll be missed. Thank you.
These are all great things. Who would like to be next?
Hi, Liza. Hi, Kate. Hi, everybody. I think my brother's on there too. Oh yeah, Kelsey's on there too.
Kelsey hopped on.
We were lucky, I think everybody here, because she didn't have her own kids.
Yeah.
She was like a bonus. It's bonus grandma. And I think we're all gonna miss her because she was special. I used to tease her that she was a hipster. She was born in the time, just a different time, and if she was born now, that's what she would be. In her tiny house in the woods, dabbling in veganism, canning her own stuff, living off the land, the whole thing. And I thought, man, you're just like, somehow, how did this happen? And how did you become so her own person? And she did not care. She did not care if that was not what we wanted or what was, societally right. She, in her soul, I think, always did what her soul told her to do, which was help. She always, and it was playing games and making things and giving. And babies. She always loves babies too. So anyway, we'll miss her. Does anybody?
I know I'm gonna cry. I don't really want to. I think Emily said it best. She's bonus grandma. I don't remember a trip north where she wasn't there. Always her own person. Didn't care what anybody thought. You could have been the Queen of England and she would have politely told you that she didn't care what you thought. I was standing here and was kind of thinking, kind of came full circle now, because I can remember several trips to the cemetery to visit graves, decorate them with Auntie. And now it's her. So we need to remember to take care of each other even when we're gone. Anyone else?
Is there anybody else that would like to share? Here comes the nurses. Keep it clean, ladies.
Now, I have a question. Were you guys Storkettes?
I asked, no, but they bowl.
But we bowl.
She didn't bowl
From the hospital. Yeah, well,
We started at the, from the
yeah,
last
well, we found a storkette bowling
We never knew that about her.
Yes.
So that we were assuming it must have been some of the nurses from labor and delivery if we were the storkettes.
Well, we are the store cats.
We worked with Emily forever. She was such a special lady. You know, you turn around and you need something and she would be right there. She knew exactly what you needed. You didn't even have to ask her or call her. She'd be there. She was wonderful. And I always swore at her because I said, you know, the day you retired, I was going to retire too. Well, that didn't happen because I kept working. But she was there when she took care of my son when both of us, we had kids, she took care of them. Just a special lady. I mean, I remember her bringing her lunch to work. We all had, you know, whatever. She always had everything, nice little salad, or garden or whatever. Yeah, I don't think, I never saw her with anything on salad.
There's probably canned salmon at home.
I never saw her bring salmon to work.
Tofu, yeah, there would have been some tofu.
But a few years ago,
Morels from the woods.
well, I remember a few years ago, she had bags and bags of flannel because she used to make nightgowns and pajamas for her nieces and nephews. So she called up my friend, so we went over to her house. You know, it's way out in the woods. Beautiful. We get there, and she starts talking about all the birds, her feeders, and all the animals. By the time we left there, we must have had 10 bags, big plastic bags, full of flannel. Because my friend and I make quilts for the seniors. We make lap quilts for the seniors. We must have got 50 quilts out of the leftover scraps.
There's still a couple boxes of everything.
And we actually made one. We saved one. We were going to take it over to her house, but then, you know, COVID hit and we didn't get a chance to get there. But, you know, she was one of a kind. Truly one of a kind. I mean, we worked with a lot of LPNs, and Emily was one of a kind, so she'll be missed. One of the best, yeah.
Emily was probably 51 when I started in OB, and I was young. But I'll tell you what, she taught me things that I couldn't have learned in nursing school. So I thank Emily for that.
Yeah. Special lady.
Yep,
She'll be missed.
special lady.
Is there anybody else that'd like to say anything? I had the honor of just a few days ago sitting with a couple of the nieces to make these final arrangements for Auntie Emily, and we got to talking, and boy, I learned a lot real quick. But some of the neatest things is, you know, she's got cactuses growing in her yard. It blew my mind. I think that's great, Northern Michigan. You know, we talked about the fact that if it was up to her, she'd be out in the woods, and she's supernatural and just loved everything nature-based. And then the comment was made, well, you know, if it was up to her, she'd want to be so natural, we would just go out in the woods one day and she'd fall asleep. And I'm thinking, we could do this, but here we are instead, a little more legal. So, with that being said, why don't we all gather a little bit closer? We're family, we have love, we loved a special lady named Emily. Let's go ahead and hold on to each other's hands right now. In just a few moments, the casket is going to be lowered.
That's part of the job description.
Is that cold hands? Yeah, more hard cold hands.
special lady who loved, who healed, who did amazing powers for people. Take as much time as you folks need here today. I would encourage you to consider things like remembering the special gifts she provided you, the sewing, the outdoors, the love, the passion. I would consider that you grab a leaf, because this is all about Emily after all. Take a leaf with you, put it in a book. Leave a leaf with Emily. We know where she's at now. May you all go in peace.
She did. Oh, it was something else.
He's the one you gotta worry about.
I don't even have any safety glasses with me.